Okay, whether
Welcome to today's episode of the Old School Cannabis Project, everybody. Joined today by our special guest, Sativa Steve, aka Real Genetics on Instagram, and a past guest, I think multiple times, isn't it, Steve? You've been on?
yeah, I think this is the third time I've been on, so yeah, I'm glad happy to be here.
Well, welcome back, bro. We were just talking, just to introduce this episode. Fucking unbelievable returns people are getting from flower in terms of rosin pressing. Uh, a buddy in the UK just told me about the biggest returns I've ever heard of in my life. Basically, 48% from flower, which is fucking unbelievable. And I told you about that. And you said you've had some similar experiences just with pressing, yeah?
Well, what I think it is the not just the resin, but the aromatics on these plants, like the grease and the terpenes that are coating the outside of the trichomes. Like I think that also a lot to do with the medicinal value of it. I think that a lot of the weight of the resin comes from the aromatics because real quick, like the some of the plants I've grown historically out of your Terptown tickets, the strawberry haze, the pure skunk spray I found out of the terp tickets. Those plants, like whenever you squeeze the bud, there was always like more aroma to come out of it. It never got to the point where it just smelled like chlorophyll, like a lot of the modern weed. Like you'll pinch it and smell it. It smells good at first. Eventually, it smells like chlorophyll if you keep on rubbing it. But with these old school genetics, it's not really like that. You can always squeeze it, and there's always more of that, like that sweet aromatic smell or pungent smell or whatever it is coming out of it. And that's kind of what I've seen with the run that I'm doing now with the keeper pheno I found with the passion fruit and the gooseberry pheno.
So that's passion fruit and gooseberry mixed together, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the funny thing. It's always been like this. They start growing and they change as they grow. So at first it was kind of like, oh, that one smells kind of sweet. That's shaping up pretty good. And then eventually got to the point where it was like a really loud, sweet passion fruit smell. And then yesterday I went and smelled it again. And mind you, I got them outside now, finishing up to make room for more plants indoors. And so they got a little bit of filtered sunlight, so their terps are still developing. But now it's not just straight passion fruit; it's passion fruit on the front end, and then as you smell deeper into it, squeeze a little bit more, it gets more of a tart, acrid gooseberry smell on the back end of it, like a deeper tone.
That sounds beautiful, but you're getting that from so you took from the Terp Town tickets a male and a female, both exhibiting skunk spray terps. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep. Yep.
And the offspring from those is giving you the
Yep.
passion fruit and gooseberry.
Yeah, that's the best pheno, and it also probably I'd say has the most greasiest resin out of all of them. Leaves your fingers glistening, super greasy, and there's another pheno that smells like really sweet pineapple. The buds are smaller, but it's got that really sweet pineapple smell. Um, and then the rest of them smell more like your typical skunk. I didn't get a pure skunk spray out of it, but the rest of them are still developing, and they smell more of that baseline skunk, uh, more like funky smells and stuff. But they all came from basically that pure skunk spray I found out of the terp ticket, and then the fresh asphalt stem rubs male that I found out of the terp tickets. That's pretty much where all the seeds came from, F2s.
Okay, it's quite interesting to get those fruit tips coming out of those parents.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's
but, but
I'm
that they're just outliers, yeah. The majority is more
Yep,
traditional skunky.
that's right. Yep.
Okay.
And they're still developing and stuff, so it's really still yet to be seen what everything's going to smell like in the end. But but at the moment, there's yeah the passion fruit gooseberry skunk is absolutely the keeper pheno, with the greasiest resin and the loudest terps, at least that my nose can smell, because I like I kind of like those fruity ones, but yeah, it's a nice one. It's a beautiful plant too. The buds are fat, and it's got a nice flower structure to it, dark green. And yeah, well, needless to say, we're definitely going to keep that one going, re-veg it, and get the seeds out of it, out of all of them, and kind of start organizing the seeds as they develop. And yeah, those will be F2 seeds technically, because the first ones I would say were F1 out of the, because I, you know, grew those from the original terp tickets. So those were the F1 seeds, and then grew the F1 seeds. These will be the F2 seeds developing now. So yeah, making some.
I mean, probably technically they're kind of not. I mean, they are for you in terms of your first generation of crossing, but
True.
in terms of what they are historically, they it's impossible to say, because people always ask me, oh, we've got the Turp Town tickets originally. Oh, what
Mhm.
generation are they? So, well, people need to understand how I did my breeding first, which was basically, I mean, God, let me think. Really, to start it back from the beginning. So it started. Well, it's impossible. It's
Yeah.
impossible for me to say which F is, but I would say majority of the things that went into the Turp Town tickets first creation were really a mixture of F3 and F4.
Oh, okay.
Because they weren't the first time I'd ever fucking bred with them. You know, all my stuff originated really in terms of the breeding around about 2009, where my ESB Hayes, there was a male that I didn't notice really late on, or too late rather, and it
Mhm.
pollinated other ESB hazes, and it pollinated some lot fives.
Mhm.
So that was like my first initial seed increase from those, if you like. And then
Mhm.
I didn't really do any breeding with them then until much later. I kind of kept those seeds. Um, did I grew on and off in the intervening years leading up to say 2015,
Mhm.
and then I popped a whole bunch of those seeds that came from that first initial. Um, I couldn't call it a breeding because it was accidental, but that first initial
Mhm.
seed making, and so then in 2016 and 2017, I made a few more seeds,
Mhm.
and then after that, obviously, was the fire, which took me out of action for a season.
Mhm.
And then in 2019, I made the big seed production run in those two big polytunnels people might have seen. And
Yep.
that created all the stuff that went into the Turp Town tickets and the boss pack. So those are all technically, I think, like F2s, F3s, really, a mixture of F2s and F3s, probably. It then went into
Yep.
making whatever. So I've always just basically never given a fuck about F1 or F whatever. And I've just always,
Yep.
every season that I've made seeds, simply
Mhm.
selected whatever females I like with my favorite male.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, a load of dickheads have said like, "Oh, he just made F1s and this, that, and the other," but they don't really know, and I can't totally remember everything precisely I've done over the years.
Yep.
Um, because it's I never initially began making seeds for anybody else other than myself. It was only when I started to discover all those really fucking rank skunks and
Mhm.
everything else that I thought, well, I should make seeds for everybody else.
Yeah. I was wondering, because some of there's like the strawberries and the gooseberries and like these different fruity profiles, and I remember you mentioning like the different parent plants that kind of went into these crosses that you got from Old Timer One, and you crossed some, made seeds, crossed things. I'm curious, like, what do you think those fruity tones? Because there's like strawberry, gooseberry, blueberry. Where do you think the strawberries and stuff, like those ones, come
Well, I
from? What?
okay. Well, with regard to me, I found the strawberries seem to pop up as like something you'll find in blueberry lines. You'll might
Yep.
cop a load. Most of them would be blueberry, but then you'll
Hmm.
get some that are like absolutely definitely strawberry.
Yeah.
So the blueberry obviously originated from the blueberry components of ESB haze, which I've mentioned like loads of times on the pod. But for new listeners, we'll say ESB haze was a Nigerian. That was the E component.
Hmm.
S was a skunk, and the B was blueberry. And Old Timer One named it ESB. Then it was
Hmm.
crossed with a haze, and that made ESB haze. Then, as I mentioned, that male pollinated everything and made a new set of genetics from which I then was able to pull out the historical ancestry. So the
Hmm.
Nigerian I never kept or bred with because I just thought that was shit, to be honest.
Hmm.
I never liked that Nigerian. And the skunk was obviously, really good skunk, and the
Yeah.
blueberry really good, and the hazes. So that's why in my packs now you're finding lots of
Yeah.
blueberry, lots of skunk, and lots of hazes.
Yep.
And then all the other fruits would have come from the things that made up his lot five, which
Mm.
was again, his conventions, labeling convention was he made a set of seeds and he made different lots of them, and lot five was the most popular in
Mm.
testing amongst people's feedback, and that's what he put out. And lot five was 4 African landrace sativas
Mhm.
in combination with what he just called a twist of indica. I was being kind of
Mm.
vague. Um, so the twist of indica, I'm guessing, would most likely be Afghan, possibly Pakistani, because he did have both. And, I've certainly found both expressions over the years, but I'd say most likely Afghan. So, and then the 4 landrace African sativas, I'd be guessing at, because again, he never specified. But after going through all his old posts and looking at the Africans that he mentioned most often, would have been the Nigerian, would have been South African, Malawi. And what did I say the other was from Africa? Name me another African place, bro.
Well,
There's loads, I know, but
there's loads.
possibly
Yeah.
Congo. But
Yeah.
that's just guesses. That's just guesses as to what they exactly were because he never said.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
Mainly because he didn't want people breeding with them, or I don't think he minded people breeding perhaps so much, but he never wanted to give people the exact recipes so they
Right.
could, they could make money off it. Because he was just a fuck. I don't care. Old Tyrone was a fucking weirdo. Um, I always massively give him props for all his fucking incredible peerless work. He was probably the best ever to fucking do it, and
Yeah.
certainly, and I have improved on his work.
Hmm.
Definitely, because the ESB haze, it was pretty fucking good, but I filtered out a lot of crap that I found in that. And
Hmm.
lot five was very good, but I'd definitely say I've smoked way superior herb coming from all the stuff I've made versus stuff I ever smoked from stuff I grew from him in their
Yep.
in their initial phases.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking him in any way when I say that. I'm just stating the truth, but
Hmm.
also, like even before the stuff I made, all of his work was better than any other breeder that I ever grew, and I have grown
Yeah.
a significant amount of breeder stuff. I'd say probably a majority of Dutch breeders I've grown. For example, I've
Yep.
grown all of Shanty's entire catalogue. I've grown,
Yep.
um, and I've grown. I've grown. I stopped counting after about 1,600 different varieties that I could fucking
Well, you
count.
know what I
I've grown.
think. You know what I think. Like the Shanti Baba and all that's like a lot of those breeders. I feel like they they bred certain things and they really went all the way like to make sure that it was really stable.
Yeah,
And but then when you get to like old timer ones and your genetics, now it's there's more diversity, so it's like you're more likely to find that outlier unicorn, in my opinion. And also just I think the baseline genetics tend to be more medicinal and better because it's not bred with like skunk number one and northern lights 5 and all the same shit that everyone else bred with. But I think that's that diversity, you're more likely to find one that's just absolutely outstanding. with
Well, the
that.
thing with Dutch breeders is majority of their stuff is indica dominant in terms of probably their components, but definitely their effects. Like, that's just what they always did. That's what old time one used to talk
Yep,
about them doing, Dutching stuff up by adding indica basically to bring down the flowering times of all the
100%.
spiritual kind of sativas and hazes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, I'm not knocking like Shanti or anything like that. I used to like his work. I liked White Widow. I've personally smoked herb grown by Shanti,
Yeah.
himself. I've smoked his White Widow, his White Rhino, and a bunch of other stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, all that kind of era, the serious seeds, all their stuff like White
Mhm.
Russian, that was kind of similar to White
Yeah.
Rhino.
Yeah.
So it was all much of a muchness.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always preferred old timers work, just because basically, yeah, it's like the stuff you love, like the landrace, but
Yep.
it's not wild. He kind of did a lot of the taming, he did a lot of the selections
Hmm.
and breeding.
Yep. Yep. Well,
And
you know what's fucking cool though is and I think this probably goes for most people who are getting involved in your work. I think initially the initial draw is like the thought of the old school skunk, and they get a pack because they think I want the skunk. They don't even know about everything else that exists, all these other phenos, and they get it, and like maybe they find some of the old school skunk, and different phenos of the old school skunk, but they also find the fruity phenos that they weren't expecting, and then they realize, oh shit, there's way more here than just I realized, and they realize that there's just all this other genetic material in here that's like equally as good and medicinal, and then they realize there's a whole freaking world of genetics that are in here.
yeah, you're completely right, 100% right. And
Hmm.
that was the whole purpose of making the Pheno Hunters and Tip Town Tickets pack, which we may as well just call the Tip Town Tickets, because
Hmm.
the Pheno Hunters, the only difference between the Pheno Hunters and the Tip Town Tickets, the original pack, was I just added 4 extra varieties on top of the 60 plus that were in the original Pheno Hunters pack to create the Tip Town Tickets. So anybody who had a Pheno Hunters pack versus a Tip Town Tickets, they pretty much got the same anyway, bar 4 varieties.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was the whole point of making that mix, because when I first did the big seed reproduction, that made the boss pack, the original boss pack, and the Pheno Hunters, it was, well, the 5 main sort of skunk plants that I had went into the boss pack, but there was also a bunch of different skunks and skunk hybrids and hazes and skunk hazes and fruity stuff and just other, because he literally had genetics from every cannabis producing region on earth in his
Hmm.
lines.
you
And I was
know
like,
I
yeah,
I feel like because I grew the Syrian hash plant, and that one, when I was growing it, I remember sending you a message, I think, and saying how when they were in veg, the stem rubs smelt kind of similar to some of the Boss and Turptown ticket plants,
yeah.
and you were saying how, like, yeah, he collected seeds from all around the world, and I'm wondering if there might be some Syrian in there, because Syrian hash plants also sometimes will have like a strawberry, like a fruity sweet smell when they're flowering, and you never know, it could be in there.
Well, I know he for sure had Iranian stuff.
Yep.
So I don't know if Iranian's similar to Syrians or, but I know it's the same neck of the woods. But I never, don't think I saw him specifically mention Syria, but it wouldn't surprise me, because he did. In fact, he probably did, because out of all the countries that he did list, he said those, and which was extensive. He
Mhm.
said those were just ones he could remember off the top of his head. So
Yeah, yeah. I think Iranian genetics are slept on. I think everyone's usually talking about the Afghan and this and that, and of course there is a lot of good Afghan and this and that in Pakistan, but I think Iranian genetics, which they seem to have the good terpene profiles and really good qualities and good effects, which kind of makes sense if that's where he got a lot of his stuff from with Iran. The medicinal effects and like happy effect of the weed. It's just like calming and not sedating as much. It's just, I don't know. It would make sense that he got some stuff from Iran with all the crazy terpene profiles that he's got in his stuff and everything. So yeah.
Well, he literally, like, there's not really a country I could say he didn't, because off the top of my head, from that post that I've posted from him a few times, it was like Afghanistan, Pakistan, all of India, all of Africa. He had things he swapped from people in America and Canada and Australia and New Zealand. He had Panamanian. He
Mm.
had from Bhutan. He had fucking Mexico, Colombia,
Yeah.
just anywhere that is famous for cannabis or well known for cannabis. He had stuff from, So
Yep. Yep.
I know from watching some of the landrace guys, like the cherry cola and the menthol stuff seems to be present in like certain parts of India.
Yep.
So that's where I guess that comes from. So yeah, the cherry cola is a pretty unique
Yeah.
profile as well. It's literally exactly the same as cherry Coca-Cola.
Yep. I'm still waiting to find a fizzy pheno. I got those 300 Terptown ticket seeds I've been sitting on. I need the space to grow them and whatnot. And yeah, man, I know for a fact I'm gonna find some crazy stuff out of those. Those are original Terptown tickets. Like 300 or so seeds of those that I picked up from you. And yeah, I've been waiting to grow those. That's gonna be a straight up chocolate box with some treats in there.
Yeah, that's a gold mine, man, because as much as there are like 60 different mothers in that mix, all pollinated by the same skunk male, there's been around 60 different profiles reported from those packs.
Absolutely.
Everything you could think of, from all the foul stuff like
Yep.
skunk spray and carcass and various types of feces and vomit and body odor and all that side of things,
Mhm.
to every single fruit you can imagine.
Yep.
That's why I just always say that, it's down to God, not me, because there's no way in the world I ever thought what I did in that seed production run that I did, where I pollinated those 60 plus different mothers with that skunk male. I never envisaged everything that's been found since, because then
Yeah.
there's all the chlorine, bleach, gasoline,
Yeah.
petroleum, asphalt, burnt rubber, burnt wood, burnt plastic, campfire smoke, banana penicillin, chocolates, coffee, leather, frankincense,
Yeah.
um, alcohols like peach
Cocaine.
liqueur, cocaine is another one. Yeah, pure fucking raw coke. Um, it's just been wild. There's been bubble gum found. There's been
Yeah.
literally just the durian fruits, just the wildest range of tips ever.
Yep. Yeah.
That definitely wasn't my intention.
Did you get the what? Did anybody get the watermelon terps? I feel like there was
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. That'd be cool to find something like that. Like a cherry watermelon or something. Like, man.
When I say every fruit, bro, I do mean every fruit. Like,
Yep.
if
Yep.
every berry, all the blueberries, the gooseberry, like you found, uh,
Yep.
raspberry, cherry. There's been, as I say, banana,
Wow.
watermelon, mangoes, grapes, strawberry,
Yep.
durian fruits. Any fruit you can name has been found. There's things like vanilla, cinnamon, lemongrass,
Wow.
ginger. It's crazy. And
It
then
is.
lots of times, well, occasionally, not so much lots of times, but every single season that I do a big run, I will find something I don't even have the words to describe. And I mean, literally, I
Mhm.
don't have the words to describe, because I've never, ever, ever, like in all my life, smelt anything like it or close to it that you could even compare it to. That's the
Yeah.
wild thing. That is so weird, bro. Tell you, to be like at our
Mhm.
age, my age, I'm not sure how old you are, but to be in your 40s and to
Mhm.
find something that you just cannot possibly it's weird. It's like being on a, not that I believe in planets and aliens and all that shit, but
Mhm.
It's like something go to a different world, experiencing something that's not on this world, you know.
Yeah, well, it runs your brain through like your brain is trying to compare it to something that's familiar, but it maybe it gets a little bit of trace of this, a trace of that, but it can't put its finger on it. And you know what I liked, what we were talking about on another podcast was all those, I forget the name of it. It was like those constituents to perfume. It was like
Like
those,
oud and stuff like that.
yeah, the
Because that's
oud.
another
Yeah,
crazy profile, bro.
yeah,
Oud. I mean, what the
dude,
fuck?
and I'll tell you what, that right there tells you the depth of the scent, because when you smell oud, I mean, it's like a thick smell, you know what I mean? It's like deep. And that's kind
Yeah,
of how I can compare like these greasy, like the passion fruit gooseberry pheno with the super strong grease on it. That's the depth of the smell, whether it's oud or passion fruit, gooseberry or strawberry. It's the same depth. Like you smell it and it goes deep into like your head when you smell it. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's just strong, dude.
It's like
Like,
aromatherapy.
yeah, oh yeah. It's also, it's not just like a loud smell, it's a medicinal smell. You know, these are medicinal aromatics, these constituents to the plant, you know, the chemicals. It's not just the THC and all that. It's everything else that was kept when it was bred, because, you know, let's be honest, like that's what, and I made a post about kind of, you know, talking about this, where modern cannabis, they bred it for basically the most THC per square foot, which means you have plants that are covered in trichomes, but when you touch it, they're not greasy, they don't smear, they're just hard, they're coarse, and they're hard and dry trichomes, because all it is THC. There's no terpenes, there's no grease on the the outside, the outer layer of the trichome should be terpenes, grease, you know, on the you know, those trichomes. So, you know, nowadays that's what they've bred for, but these old school genetics still have that layer of aromatics, which is like the esters and the thiols and the all these like, so, you know, different parts of, it's not just the terpenes, it's all these other parts of it, like these other chemicals that have a lot to do, I think, with the effect. It's not just terpenes, it's everything else in there. You know, when we smell a smell, and it's what I think is, the terpenes are kind of like what the smell typically is, but how deep it is, I would say, like how much it permeates into your nose and your sinuses into your head. That, I think, that has a lot to do with the thiols, the esters, the other constituents to those aromatics. I think that's a lot to do with the medicinal value to it, you know. And modern cannabis is lacking that. They bred that right out of it to make more THC.
Well, yeah, I think, a lot of us have been talking more recently that whilst they might have just, I think there was a nefarious agenda basically behind the breeding that's gone on since that fucking prick Sam the Skunk Man.
Hmm.
I think it wasn't just about creating high THC,
Hmm.
because even a prick like Sam, well, especially a prick like Sam and people from his generation, they knew that that early stuff that people call swag and, dismiss now, and the kind of things you breed with, they had effects that are just vastly superior to anything that's available now. So, and
Yep.
particular effects like the spiritual effects and
Yep.
those kind of effects. And I think it was, yes, maybe high THC was a byproduct of this kind of breeding, but I think it wasn't just the drive of for high THC. It was, I think they deliberately bred it to make it on like a lower frequency, a lower vibrational kind of, shit effect on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm convinced basically that it was a deliberate fucking plot to destroy the best of the effects, the empathetic, the joy inducing, the spiritual, the creative, the motivating, the energizing.
Yep.
Because modern cannabis is just not that. Excuse me one sec, because I just got to plug in my laptop. So carry on.
Yeah, I just to carry on what you were saying, I agree. You know, what I feel, and you kind of feel it in your gut a lot of times, when something's going on. And I feel that the government's always been 10 steps ahead of everybody. So when it becomes federally legal in, let's say, the United States, they don't want everybody else to have these genetics that might have the best medicinal value they want to have the best genetics to derive the medicinal values from. So when they bred all the skunk number one and all that stuff, and all the seed banks were pushing that kind of stuff, now everybody has that kind of stuff, except for the few people, like, say, that has land races and like these old school skunk genetics. So I don't think they want us to have these really good,
They definitely don't. I mean, what you're saying is right, but I don't think they wanted the best
right.
medicine for themselves. They wanted us
Yep.
to have the worst medicine.
And
Because there's that post that I've seen. I assume it's true and not just some kind of thing that was made up, but there's a post I've seen a few times online where it says, in 1974, I think it was, scientists in Virginia University discovered that cannabis had the ability to kill tumors
mhm,
and stop cancers. Well, in 1974, that was by then skunk had been created by Old Timer One and his little group,
mhm,
and I have always believed that original skunk that smelled like skunk
mhm,
was a superior cancer killer. I do believe THC will
mhm,
just kill tumors to some effect, to some extent, but I think that particular hybrids of the Colombian, Afghan, and Mexican, I think it was special, and I think the effects were
mhm.
special, and
Yep.
they were extra cancer killing, if you know what I mean, just due to that combination of
Yep.
ratio of cannabinoids and terpenes that it produced. And I
Yep.
think once they realized that, hence by 1974, because it said in that post, and then they immediately closed it down, closed the
Yep.
research down. Well, then, I think they did discover in the 70s that those early hybrids, perhaps more so than just the individual landrace constituents, were better at curing cancer and all those, and had better medicinal effects. So
Yeah.
then, obviously, Sam the Skunk Man with his bullshit story about being a on the run fugitive in the 80s, going to Holland, where we've said many times where he's got given, which to this day no Dutchman's ever even been given,
Mhm.
the licensing and the facilities to do things on a huge scale, So
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
absolute bullshit. I mean, how does anyone believe that bullshit story that the Dutch government are going to give some so-called smelly old hippie kind of thing on the
Mhm.
run from the DEA in America,
Mhm.
a bunch of licenses and acres of greenhouses? It's just pure fucking bullshit. He was a Fed scumbag from the start,
Mhm.
tasked with destroying cannabis and popularizing garbage. And then
Yep.
I think that has just been what has run ever since. That's been the MO ever since. And people that have, all the well-known people pretty much on the scene after him, have all
Mhm.
been either willing or unknowing participants in that.
Yeah. It also would make sense as to why so many people. You figure with the genetics that you have that everybody would be supporting you, but there's so many haters, and like that talk shit about your genetics, and people reach out to me and even say shit to me. They try, but then they immediately give up because I don't play that game. But like,
And
and
bro, can
and
I just tell you this, because you've just reminded me, so I don't want to cut you off, but I don't want to forget this. But you
it,
literally just jogged my memory about an email I received a couple of days ago. Now I
yeah.
get a lot of emails of support, but occasionally some absolute cocksucker will try and send me what they think's a nasty email. But you can tell I'm laughing at it now. But check this out. Literally like a couple of days ago, I can't even remember who this spastic was, but some absolute loser sent me an email, and it was like a one sentence email saying, ha ha. Listen to this. This is how childish they were. It was something like, ha ha. You don't get the credit for bringing back skunk. And I'm like, you fucking retarded cunt. You're hitting me up, giving me credit for. You're crediting me with bringing back
Oh
skunk,
shit.
but not getting the applause for it,
Oh, dude, you
I'm
can't
like,
you
you
can't make it up.
retarded twat.
But I think that these people are giving you so much pushback because they know that they don't want everyone to have these medicinal genetics, and you're giving them out. You're spreading these genetics that are just like, it's going to wake everybody up. I would assume, but they're pushing back because they're like, oh no, oh shit, he's got the real good stuff. Like, we got to suppress him. We can't have that getting out there, like real good medicine. I think that's part of it. Everybody, you're going against the agenda of like this, of like all these skunk one genetics. It's putting really good shit out there. Everybody else is either, you know I guess, jealous, but also just it goes against the agenda of the initial skunk one and the high THC and all. That all that genetics are the same. That skunk one, NL5, haze, everything's got the same shit in it. You bring out these really good medicinal genetics, and it's so obvious how people are trying to suppress you. That tells me that you got the real good, the good shit.
Well, it's like every time I get somebody sends me samples of my genetics, some nice flower or something, like Credence Craft has done, in the recent times, and a few other people down in the UK who are growing them. Every time someone sends me some stuff and I smoke it, so what usually the first thing that comes to my mind is like, yeah, this is why these fucking twats fucking hate me, because you can imagine there's levels to it. There's levels and
Yep.
there's layers. You've got like little bums in the community that fancy themselves as breeders, and they're just little losers with not many fucking followers on Instagram and all the rest of it.
Right.
But they get really butthurt that I've got way better stuff than them. And
Yep.
then there's the people above them, the scum like Jodry, that are Sam Skunkman 2.0, just
Yep.
feds placed in the community as gatekeepers
Yep.
to that's their paid job, basically, is to stop the real medicine coming out. So you've
Yep.
got jealous little faggots, basically, who
Mhm.
like the little bitch that sent me that fucking email the other day.
That's
And
funny.
then you've got scum like Jodry and plenty and all his crew, his circle, that are out there deliberately suppressing it on behalf of fucking probably the
Yeah.
feds.
Right,
So
right. Yep. It's dangerous. It's like you can't stop it now. There's so many people that have it. I mean, you can't fucking stop it. But
listen, bro, another thing, fucking, I've seen so many people recently, like people that fucking have sent me again, like on not emails, but like have made comments on Instagram and stuff, like talking shit to me in the past, and like now they've got fucking plants with all the terp profiles that have been fucking found
I
in my
know. I
stuff.
know.
I
Oh,
saw some clown the other day, and it's like somebody was posting something that had been bred. I'm not going to mention his name, but bred
mhm.
by some cocksucker that had talked shit to me in the past, who had never had any of these tips, and now suddenly he's got something that's got like chem and rotten this and rotten that,
Yep.
and some
Yep.
skunk and some
Yeah.
and it's like exactly like a word for word description of my stuff,
Yep.
basically,
You
and the
know,
flower looks the fucking same as
the
well.
flower looks the same. I've seen it, I've seen it, and I try to ignore it, but you literally can tell by the look of the flower, the description of it. And like you said, like, you released these what, around 2020 or 2019 or something, and like
You
nobody.
could basically say the start of 2020, like from December 2019, they started going out, but
Yeah,
it went
2020.
heavy from 20 to 23.
Yeah, and honestly, yeah, when I see other people saying, "Oh, I got this old school skunk and blah 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 and this and that," and maybe some people do, but like, let's be honest, I take one
Well,
look
where
at
was
it.
it prior to 2020? All these cunts that say they got
Yeah,
this, I'm like, well, where was it in 2019? Well, what are you talking about
right, right,
2019,
exactly. They got it from you, and then they worked a line a little bit, and then they're releasing it like they've had it, and I see it, and I can see straight through it. I can see the similarities in it,
And
you
some
know.
of those stories are just so embarrassing.
Yeah, it's like I'd almost want to buy a pack of it and then just tag you when I grow it. You know what I mean? Just be like, "Yep, this came from fucking who, fucking." But yeah, it's just funny. I try to ignore all the noise like that because there's enough people that have it now and
But
that are
what
getting
these cocksuckers don't understand is they fucking work for me. Whether they
right.
realize it or not, because I'm not a fucking cunt like them. My main motivation has always been to make sure people had these genetics because they were so vastly superior to anything that was available prior to me dropping them. So my
Yep.
my motivations have always been altruistic in order to improve the
Mhm.
gene pool, to give people who need real medicine, and
Yep.
just generally everybody to experience what was so vastly superior to what was out there before. That's why the Terp Town tickets came into existence, because I had all these like nearly 70 plants. I always say just more than 60, but it's like 60, 70 plants that were just so special and unique and different and better than anything that I knew to be out there prior to 2019. That was why I made those packs. So I made the Boss pack to be full of skunk with the 5, pretty most what I expected to be the skunkiest offspring, because all the mothers and the fathers were rank skunks. And that's what proved to be the case. The Boss pack chucked out loads of different skunks and the cocaine and the burnt rubber and all those kind of things. And then I had all these other plants, some of which were also skunks, but just ones I didn't put in the Boss pack for whatever reason. They were just perhaps skunks with more chemical nuances and stuff like that. Plus then all the other stuff that was, we've talked about, because, everything that Old Timer had was better than what everyone else had, really,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how these the rest of these skunks and stuff I got going right now finish. I know some of them are going to re-veg. Particular, I can see the passion fruit gooseberry skunk is already starting to re-veg, because as we get into this hot temperatures with long days into the summer, basically, it's almost summer, I believe. But yeah, so we're it's going to start re-vegging, but the seeds are still developing, and yeah, so I'll get the ripe seeds, and some of them will re-veg, particularly the keeper pheno. So I'll be able to keep that one going, and keep it for future breeding with the rest of the. Once I get the rest of the Terp Town tickets to grow at some point, I'll be able to save all those keeper phenos out of it, and start crossing those together and making the fruit lines and skunk lines and all that stuff, and kind of just starting to work those lines little by little, and find all those keeper phenos out of all those plants, all those seeds. But yeah, it's a lot to be found still, so pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean that 300 seeds you got, that's a gold mine you sat on there of just such a plethora
Yeah,
of diversity,
huge.
So yeah, it's like the Tip Tab Tickets 2.0. That's like got 20 different varieties in, as opposed to like the 60 that the original Tip Tab Tickets had. But for me, I wouldn't even say it's an improvement. I wouldn't say they're an improvement on the Tip Tab Tickets, the original pack, but the direction they've gone in, I still it is a progression, because there's just the effects that I've encountered off the second Tab Ticket pack. They are just so fucking nice. I mean, especially some of the haze dominant stuff. The highs last for hours. They're very spiritual. They're very energizing. They're very motivating. And like, I could talk about it like now, because he'll understand when he hears this. But like Credence Craft, he sent me a whole bunch of stuff that he grew, and he's doing a fantastic job this year as well with a whole bunch of stuff that I've given him. But the stuff that he grew last season outdoors in the UK, practically zero fucking sun, the effects were just phenomenal,
Yeah,
And then he's also sent me in recent times something I absolutely fucking hated. And I can say it because he won't be offended, because he knows it's the genetics. But he sent me something called Purple Sprite, which was like obviously not mine, because
yep,
he'd run a lot of my stuff. But he kindly sent me some free smoke. I'm not complaining at all about that.
yep, yep.
He's a super generous guy. But the effects of this Purple Sprite was just horrible. It's like
Yeah,
he sent me some of the best smoke I've ever had in my life, and that Purple Sprite was some of the most horrible I've ever had in my life. Because not only
yeah,
was it's not like it was just like, oh, you could just say it was a bit weak or ineffective. It wasn't that. It was just like the effects. It had effects, but they were pure downer. They
yeah.
made me feel shit. I
Anxiety.
hated it with a passion.
Yeah, the anxiety. The modern stuff. It gives me pure anxiety for the most part. The first time I tried and started smoking, the first few times I'll say that I smoked the strawberry haze from the first time I grew your stuff. Um, the pure strawberry syrup plant. That shit was like literally, it was like an antidepressant. You know what I mean? It was like an antidepressant, and I would smoke it, and I was just like, damn, I have no anxiety. Like, I can do this. I can smoke this, and I can do whatever. Like, I can do laundry. I can
Bro,
get up and not be in pain, but I feel good, and there's no anxiety. It's fucking uplifting, really.
you're so you've hit it on the head there. Do you know what somebody said to me just like last week, which was like an interesting way of putting things. He said something from the Terptatics 2.0 that he's grown. He was like, "Oh, it's so clean, but it makes you confident." You know,
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. It's
I
real
thought that's a
medicine,
great
you know?
description. Because I know what he meant. You can power through your day. You can get on with things. You feel up
Yep,
and energized and motivated. I can see what
yep.
he means by confident.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it is, it is. It's like super effect, you know? It's so much different. It's not, you can't even compare it to the, washed out fucking modern cannabis that is basically some people like that shit, or I think they're just confused. They say they like it because it's so strong, but
It
I
don't
think
know any different, bro.
it's crazy though. It's just like this modern shit. You smoke it, and it just like fucks your head up and makes you, I don't know, it just like clogs it up. It's like smokes your brain out in
Yeah.
like a negative
Do you know who's
with like
really cool? That I like the way he describes things, Mr. Sour, the dude in Spain,
mhm.
who was on a few episodes back. He's got an excellent way of expressing and articulating how they affect you. He's saying about, I remember, like, they've got anti-trauma effects. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I've got to get him back on soon to carry on that
Yep.
conversation. But
Yep. Yep.
he, all these effects are just like I say, like, do you know what? That fucking purple Sprite stuff that I had recently, I honestly thought, right, that should be fucking illegal because obviously we're illegal in the UK still.
Yeah.
Um, well, if you're not participating in a bullshit fucking medical thing, but it's
Mhm.
to all intents and purposes, it's illegal in the UK.
Mhm.
But that shit should be fucking illegal. It's got
Mhm.
no positive beneficial effects whatsoever. A lot of fucking modern stuff, it should be fucking illegal, in my opinion. I wouldn't want any
Mhm.
young people smoking it. I wouldn't want it to be people's first introduction to cannabis. It would put people off for life, I'd have thought. No
Right. Right.
wonder a lot of parents or who don't smoke and then they see their kids, I mean, I could only imagine how it might affect like a younger person as well. If it had this shit effect on me, I was like, it must be fucking, imagine that was your, experience of cannabis when you were young. I mean, yeah, absolute fucking garbage. It should be
Yeah.
fucking illegal. Most modern cannabis should be fucking illegal
Yeah.
because it's trash and
It
and
is.
it makes you feel bad.
It does make you feel bad. Yeah. I can't, I don't understand it, you know, and really I think I'm hoping that someday most people open their mind up and give you know, for example, like the old school genetics, but also like the landrace genetics a try. You know, it's almost, you know, it's like the your old school skunks and stuff will say that's like basically different land races put together, so it's like multiple good effects put together, whereas
Hmm.
like, you know, certain land races you get like a one you get like some good effects from this one, and this one gives a different good effect. um you know, I
Yeah, I'm
think.
totally with you. Each one has its own its distinctive kind of effect, which will be different to anything found in modern day stuff. But it'll
Mhm.
be maybe just one or perhaps two. Like Malawi Gold, when you first smoke it, it can be super energizing for the first half of the high and then actually tail off into something quite sedative later. But I
Yeah.
do know what you mean. I totally concur with that, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, and I've had a couple of different Malawi Golds. The first one I had was my favorite, I would say. It was like it was like a carrot, sweet carrot, and then but also like pineapple when it was growing. And man, that shit was the cleanest smoke I've ever had. And as far as like your mental, you smoke it, and it was just like pure focus, pure clean. It was like your mind. It was like a brain washer. It like cleaned your brain out, you know, and it just made you like clear headed, super clear, and there was like no after effect with it. It was just like pure fucking no burnout, right? But then I smoked another one that was more like a grape chocolate and grape pez flavor when it was growing, and that one was more like traditional. sativa gave you a high and then came down and stuff. But yeah, there's so many different things that are out there, and that some of the Himalayan varieties are kind of good too. The Himalayan Rasol was pretty good, nice introspective high, and all that. But yeah, man, I'm excited to see. There's a lot more work to be done. Everyone growing these real genetics and you know to eventually share with everybody, and people can try the fucking old school stuff, the landrace stuff, and get a flavor and get on the bandwagon and fucking really understand what good cannabis really is, stuff that'll make you go want to go vacuum your house or start a fucking band or
Yeah,
you know what I mean, it'll make you want to do whatever you want to do basically feeling you'll feel great about it, instead of just being fucking smoked out and just fucking retarded, like
yeah. I remember with the Malawi Gold, I remember specifically it used to make you want to go to the gym, have that kind of effect, an energizing effect. And even like
yeah.
with some of the stuff, some of the nice haze dominant stuff Credence Craft has sent me. Uh, it's not like I'm a bodybuilder like that, but I've got weights. I've got weights lying around, and like
Yep.
I'll smoke something from like that, and
Mhm.
yeah, I'll be doing a few hundred reps.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, it's and then you eat well, it just fucking I don't
Sleep
know.
well.
Yeah, it's good for you. It makes you imagine if everybody was smoking like this medicinal stuff instead of like these train wreck weed. It'd be so much. I think it'd be different. I think the culture would be different, and I think everything would just be a little bit different. And really, certain people could benefit more than others from this type of weed, but
100%.
but everybody could smoke it and benefit. People who have never smoked before, they'd be way better off uh trying some of this stuff than the modern stuff. People smoke the modern stuff and they're like, oh my god, I can't move, I'm like anxiety attack, you know what I mean? And but if they'd smoked some of this old school stuff, they'd be like, shit, I feel light, I feel like I'm floating, I feel good, I feel all right.
Yeah,
you
that's almost like what do you call it? I forgot the fucking miss. Oh, it's a miss something. The words
know.
gone out of my fucking head. That's what I was going to say. But like, oh, what's the word? The word is gone. But like, they've got a miss. Oh, what? Oh man, my head's. I'm not even smoked anything today. I'm waiting for some herb to arrive. But
Yep.
they've got a fucking a misunderstanding. Let's say, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
of what like a sativa effect should be. A lot of people think it's going to be paranoia inducing, a racy, but no.
Right.
A
Right.
lot of these sativas or hazes, they're energetic, but there's a calming constituent to them as well. A fucking, which is the opposite of it's anti-anxiety.
Yeah, 100%. 100%, man.
Not to say you can't find them. I have experienced, even in old timer one stuff in the early days when I was growing up, I found only one, but I do remember it was actually pure paranoia. You smoked it, and regardless of the situation and setting you were in, it made you feel on edge and as if something bad was about to happen. But that's few
Yeah.
and far between and rare. And obviously, I never bred with that. It was like a 16-week Colombian type plant. It was really.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yep.
But the majority of the stuff that's sativa dominant and haze dominant, it's very, very fucking life enhancing and, life improving, with no
Absolutely.
paranoia and no edge.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. Agree 100%.
But well, I definitely recommend everybody taps into a packet of Turptown Tickets 2.0 purely because of those reasons we just mentioned. Like everything that anybody sent me, the majority has been from Credence Craft, and they've all had fantastic effects. But even from other people, I've received stuff. I've just not had a bad sample from that
Mhm.
Turptown Ticket 2.0, and that's got, as I say, 20 different varieties. Majority is well, I put it in there. I originally called it the Medi Pack, but then I thought, well, too many people say, "Oh, I'm not a medical user." I'm like, "Oh my god!" Um, so it's like a lot of ignorance about what they are really. So I just, and as it was a continuation in some sense of the Turptown Tickets, I changed the name to that. but everything, there's a lot of hazes and there's a lot of skunks in there. There's a lot of eucalyptus skunk, eucalyptus haze, blueberry skunk, blueberry haze. There's some citrus skunk and some lime haze. There's a lot of different things in there, and all the effects are just fucking phenomenal. So I'm doing 50 packs of those shipped for 150, and I'm doing a clearance on my Star 23. And I'm not doing a clearance offer, stock clearance offer on my Star 23 for any negative reason. In fact, it's what the American market particularly fucking loves. It's full of skunk, burnt rubber, chem, and diesel. It's like a fusion of burnt rubber, skunk, chem, diesel, and some lime. And then there's another expression which doesn't pop up as much as I would like from what I've seen, which was like the original smile, which is more really why I bred it. But the offspring seems to be more on this chem, diesel, burnt rubber, skunk fusion, right? And it gives massive fucking yields. Which I think they're massive, fucking half a kilo, which is like one of your American pounds, I think, in a 2-gallon pot, or 2-gallon pot, which is like equivalent of our 9-liter pots over here. It's a huge yielding plant. It's quite fast finishing as well, done mainly in 8 weeks. But I'm not going to continue it breeding with it, because just going forward, I'm kind of like, fuck everybody, really. I've given like the community all the chances in the fucking world to support me as they should have done, and most haven't. So now I'm not breeding for what the market wants. I'm just breeding for my own personal preferences. And to be honest, this burnt rubber, skunk, chem, diesel thing isn't my fucking personal preference. I actually like smoking a lot of the blueberry stuff, for example, more than I do that, and some just plain skunks and hazes. So I'm actually putting a really great offer out on the Star 23 now. I'm doing 50 fucking seeds for pretty much the price of what I was doing a 10-pack for before. So I just want to get them cleared, because I don't intend to breed with them again going forward. I just want to do stuff that appeals to me, and if people want to buy it, they can. And if they don't, I don't care, because it's just for me, So hit me up for the Star 23 if you want a massive yielding. Even if you fucking get a pack off me sent out on fucking Monday or next week, even if you pop them at the end of this month, if you receive them early July even, or the end of fucking June, you're still going to get excellent fucking results outdoors if you pop them straight away, So hit me up for the Star 23 if you just want something that's totally fucking very commercially viable and attractive, because it's got great bag appeal as well to those who it matters to. And it's a total 10 out of 10, but it's just not to my preference. It's not what I like so much. So I'm getting rid of that, and I don't intend to breed it again. So it's a great opportunity for people to get hold of bulk for fucking cheap. And I definitely encourage people to get the Turptown Tickets 2.0 pack, because that is really yielding special fucking varieties now. When I say 5-hour highs, people have reported longer than that. And it is, if you smoke like a joint at 9 in the morning, you can still feel some effects that you don't need to smoke again before, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yep.
So it's pretty much an all day high, So,
Hell yeah.
Well, Steve, we're going to try and keep these episodes like a shorter fucking time frame going forward. So we've been about 45 minutes, and it's been a fucking great high energy discussion. So
Yeah.
I'm going to draw things to a close over here, also because it's humid as fuck in the UK right now, and I'm sat here sweating like a bitch. so unless you had any more like main points to add on today, obviously you're welcome back fucking in a few weeks when you've harvested, etc., and anytime you want. But
yeah,
we'll bring this episode towards its conclusion shortly.
yeah. We appreciate you guys having me on, and once those plants develop more and everything, I can pop some more seeds, give some more feedback and everything, and have some more to talk about on that end. But yeah, I'm always appreciate this. We had a good talk today. I feel like it was covered some good areas and stuff. So
yeah, 100%, bro, and I appreciate you, because you're like one of the real ones.
I appreciate. Yeah, of course, man. I mean, it's like you don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? I mean, people who are genuinely helping you, and you get real genetics from, it's it's like a no-brainer. So
Well, yeah, and if you want anything from me, bro, hit me up, and I've got you. Like, you're not on the fucking current menu pricing.
Yeah,
I know
I
you got
appreciate
plenty
it.
of stuff already, but if you fancied a bunch of fucking the
Yeah.
new stuff, if any folks spoke like the Chinese lizard wine, I would
Yep.
do recommend that, bro. I got you
Yep.
covered for fucking cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. The oud phenos, may find some of those maybe.
The cherry oud musk, I don't have any more of those available to the public, but for you, there's definitely a 10 pack I could take out my personal stash.
Nice.
Uh, I've got like the lime piss haze, the sweet and sour haze, pickled onion cat piss,
Hmm.
fucking skunk haze. Few nice bits and bobs, man.
Hell
And
yeah.
yeah, I could send you a bunch of Star 23 if you just wanted to have something that is commercial and produced as well.
Nice. Nice. Hell yeah.
Well, appreciate you, bro. And we'll wrap it up. Appreciate everybody listening. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. We've been stuck at around this mark for fucking ages. I don't think YouTube is going to be promoting us in any way, shape, or form due to some of the fucking topics we cover on here. And yeah, let's try and get to 2,000 subscribers before too much longer. Um, Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on, Steve. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.
There we are. We've left enough space for Rich to cut it anyway.
Nice. Nice.
He's not there at the minute, it don't look like, but
Yeah. Right. Right. No,
I
that was
left
good.
I
That was
left
a
a
good
pause
talk.
where he could cut it.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good talk though. I think we covered some good shit.
Yeah, it's a good, I think it'll be a really well received episode, bro. Because I say around about 45, 50 minutes long. Well,
Yep.
if we started bang on 3, it's about an hour actually. But
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it, because I think when people see the episode, with the short attention spans and everything, I think they're more likely to click on it if it's with like in an hour, basically.
yeah, yeah. That's what
Yep.
me and Rich were discussing. Like, even if we do go on to like, in the future, just
Mhm.
happen to have like a much longer one, we'll
Yeah.
just make it like if we had a group of us. I was hoping Skunky Monkey could join us for this one, but
Mhm, mhm.
he's what do you call? He's in a different time zone. He's too early for him. But yeah,
Yep.
we were saying we would just like break them down into 30-minute sections or something, because it is a
Yeah.
definite thing. We don't get like retention right through on all the long ones.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yep. Yep. So, hell yeah, though. Fucking sounds good. I'll be go check on my plants and yeah, keep on posting and everything. So
Well, you have a great day, bro. And thanks very much for doing this episode, man.
yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right, buddy. Take care, man.
Thank you. Bye.
See you later, Rich, when you hear this.
Bye, Rich. Thank you.